Work surfaces are first cleaned with alcohol wipes. Chlorhexidine mouthwash, along with chlorhexidine gel placed on a brand new toothbrush, are used for 2 minutes by the patient. Outer wrapping of the drapes pack is then opened and placed on the work surface, making sure not to touch the inner contents. The gown packs are opened, ensuring not to touch the inner wrapping, and the surgical gloves are placed on top. The surgical assistant prepares herself wearing personal protective equipment. The assistant, to be sterile, carries out hand washing by first dispensing Hibiscrub using an elbow and rubbing hands palm to palm and the back of each hand with the fingers interlocked. The fingers are then interlaced, the thumbs are cleaned, the tips of the fingers are rubbed on the opposite palm, the wrists and forearms are also cleaned in addition to the hands, lasting a total of 2 minutes. These are washed, ensuring that the water runs down the arm towards the elbow. The hands and wrists are washed again for a further 1 minute. The hands are then washed alone for a third and final time for 1 minute, carefully ensuring all areas of the hands are washed. Each arm is dried with a sterile towel, starting from the hands to the wrists and forearms. A new towel is used for each arm. The surgical gown is then placed, ensuring hands remain within the gown at all times. A non-sterile revolving assistant ties the gown at the neckline and the waistline. Sterile gloves are opened without touching the pack with the fingers. The gloves are aligned so they are pointing up the arm and can be rolled over the hands. The sterile assistant passes the tag of the gown to the non-sterile revolving assistant and ties the gown. The sterile drapes pack is opened, a drape is unfolded, the sticky tabs of the drape are exposed and placed on the work surface. The sterile gloves must not touch the work surface when doing this. The patient drape, light handle coverings, and sleeves for the drill are set out methodically on the drape surface. The non-sterile revolving assistant carefully opens and hands the double bag instruments to the sterile assistant, making sure not to touch the inner sterile wrapping. The non-sterile wrapping on the surgical blade is removed and dropped by the revolving assistant onto an aseptic surface for the sterile assistant to collect.
16 mouthwash is poured into the sterile plastic container by the non-sterile revolving assistant without disrupting the aseptic barrier.
The patient preparation involves placement of a surgical hat and safety glasses. A patient drape is placed by the sterile assistant. The revolving assistant only touches the undersurface of the drape. A sterile swab doused in chlorhexidine is used with tweezers to prepare the intraoral tissues. This is handed to the non-sterile revolving assistant. A second sterile swab is used to prepare the extraoral tissues, starting from the lips and working in a circular motion outwards to the cheeks and ending with the nostrils. Light handle covers are placed by the sterile assistant without touching the sterile gloves directly with the handles.
The surgeon washes her hands in the manner shown previously. The hands, wrists and forearms are washed for 2 minutes, the hands and wrists for 1 minute, and the hands only for a further 1 minute.
Hands are dried as described previously with one towel for each arm. Surgeon gowns and is tied up by the revolving assistant. Sterile gloves are placed as before, with the revolving assistant removing the tag on the gown, and the gown is tied. Sterile suction tubing is removed from the wrapping by the sterile assistant. The end of the tubing is handed back to the revolving assistant to place into the suction. The tubing is then secured onto the patient tray with mosquito clips by the sterile assistant. The sterile surgical drill is opened by the sterile assistant. The irrigation scent for the handpiece is taken by the sterile assistant from the revolving assistant, not touching the outer wrapping. This is attached to the handpiece. The drill is wrapped with a sterile sleeve. Saline is removed from the wrapping by the sterile assistant, as shown. The pump is placed into the saline by the sterile assistant, and the saline is passed back to the revolving assistant. The revolving assistant then attaches the piping to the handpiece. Instruments are then opened with the implant kit opened last. Surgery can then begin in an aseptic environment.